Hello everybody, I'm Cantonese Cat. Hey everybody, Cantonese Cat here. I do want to talk about Bitcoin and also some of the miners, what I'm thinking. Just going to go for a quick video. No, I don't want to do a live stream because I don't want to compete with some of the great live streams out there after hours, especially Jesse. But I do want to go for a couple things. But before I do, I just want to say I do have a channel membership here. If you want to join my YouTube channel, it's only a few dollars a month. You don't have to, obviously, but if you do and you want to just use it as a way for me to kind of support me, I would really appreciate it. And if you don't, that's okay too. I just want to say if you are a member, if you have any questions, I'll try to prioritize you. If I don't get to it by around the week, I'll definitely get to it around the weekend. And if you have any chart requests, things like that, please do let me know. If especially if you join a membership, but if not, then that's okay. If you have a hard time finding, that's fine too. I just want to give you an opportunity to support me if you want to. But anyway, get straight to Bitcoin here. This is the 15-minute chart. On the 15-minute chart, you can see that there are these order blocks over here where you have the sell orders up here around like 58,400. You also have a lot of buying orders down here in the 15-minute chart. Right where we're at right now, the bottom of this buying block over here is around 56,500. Now, could potentially go down lower. Yeah, if you look at a higher time frame at the 30-minute chart, you can see there's a little bit more demand down here around 56,500 and potentially even lower all the way down to 55,600, right? But on the 15-minute time frame, it looks like we're hitting some of these order blocks over here. It also looks like the weight trend oscillator is turning a little bit positive. So there is a chance where this might be bottoming out here. And if you just look at the greater scheme of things, what is it doing right now? It is really forming a bit of a broadening descending wedge, if you will. I mean, I can draw this out for you. Basically, it goes from here, it goes over here, and it also goes from here, and it goes down here, right? So this is a little bit of a broadening descending wedge. These formations generally are a little bit more bullish. And the interesting thing too is if you just look at the lower time frame, it looks just like the higher time frame. Now I'll show you what I meant by that. You remember this descending wedge here, right? And I'll just go back to the weekly here and I can draw this descending wedge pretty much at the current price level. Like you see that you have a big giant run up and you have a descending wedge here on the higher time frame. These are generally, like these broadening descending wedge, they're generally thought to be more bullish structures than they're bearish. And so you have one here on the higher time frame, and going back to the 15-minute mark here, you have one here now on the lower time frame. These are still relatively bullish structure. The worst thing you can be is like an ascending wedge. It just looks like it's gonna break down. But when you have something like this, it actually means that you have a pretty decent demand zone, and they really just trying to wear you out and trying to give you these kind of price action and trying to really tire you out and make you wonder, why is it that the greater market, the broader market has gone up a lot today, and why is it that Bitcoin has gone down? It really makes you wonder, right? It really messes with your head, and that's exactly what they want to do to you. But without going through a little bit more philosophical question here, what is going on with Bitcoin? Why did it have this price action here? Well, a couple of things here. If you look at different time frames, I'm going to turn off the order blocks here. I'm going to turn on the Ichimoku cloud. Now it might be a little bit more useful. Looking at the 30-minute time frame, got rejected from the top of the cloud here. Unfortunately, yesterday it didn't really hold the cloud over here, and it just kind of went down, straight down, unfortunately, right? If you look at a higher time frame, like in 1 hour, it got rejected at the bottom of the cloud here, and instead of finding support here at the Tenkan and Kijun, it just went up, broken down. And I think it's just probably, one final flush, maybe a little bit further, who knows? But it just seems like this is like a flush going down, where everybody was expecting like positive data, CPI, PPI, blah blah blah. Everybody's just want to try to long this thing because the Jordan Powell is going to try to basically pump everything up. And the stock market did go up. It was kind of like a classic CPI move, but where you go down initially and then just go up. But I think crypto, with everybody maybe anticipating like a higher move, but a lot of things might already been starting to get priced in. It just hasn't really materialized, and next thing you know, it's just been making all these down moves here. But you have a little bit of a tweezer bottom over here, which is a little bit promising after you got rejected from up top over here, right? Looking at a 2-hour time frame, you can see that it also got rejected from the top of the cloud. It just kind of went down, didn't really find support here at the Tenkan Kijun. Unfortunately, it just kind of went down for another flush. You're looking at the 4-hour time frame, same thing, got rejected from the top of the cloud. Now, it didn't end up going down to the bottom of the cloud, but it could, I suppose, around 55,900, and that would be a very, very strong support level. Shall it go down there? But it doesn't have to. Look at the daily chart, it got rejected from the bottom of the cloud, and it just came back, and unfortunately it's not able to hold the Tenkan, and it just went down further, and again forming a little bit of like a descending broadening wedge over here. You are starting to lose some bit momentum here on the daily. Initially there was a little bit of a bullish momentum, but this flush down over here really kind of make you lost it, but no big deal. Sometimes you lose some of this, but it's just temporary. Next thing you know, it just end up going up higher. These are lower time frames, so I'm not really that concerned, right? But it did get rejected, fell underneath the cloud, got back tested the cloud, got rejected, so you just made another leg lower, and that has already played out. 2-day chart, actually the oscillator looks not bearish nor bullish, it's just sideways, and price has just been going sideways, right? And if you look at the weekly chart, we are underneath resistance at the Tenkan and Kijun. Unfortunately, we get rejected so far for this week. This week is close to about half over, so we'll see what happens. On a 2-week chart, you also see that it is underneath the negative sloping Tenkan, and so far it's getting rejected. But on the monthly, the Tenkan is rising. On the monthly, overall, this still looks like a pretty decent bullish chart here, and we really are just basically way too far extended at the beginning of the year. And you got punished for it. Price went sideways and down for about 6 months straight. And currently you're really finding support here, the rising Tenkan, so we'll see whether or not price close above the rising Tenkan here around 55,700 for the month. And we still have another couple months to go, couple of weeks to go for the month, so it's still early. Now, I know you guys want to talk about MSTR, I know you guys want to talk about miners, so I'm just going to go straight into it. The MSTR still looks pretty decent, it's still basically above the Tenkan here. On the monthly, basically is still hovering around the area where you're at the previous not all-time high, but previous cycle high over here, which was around 131.5, and right now price is still above that, so I can't really be that bearish on MicroStrategy. It's just simply broke above the previous high and came back and back tested a few times. So far it's still holding to as of today, right? And if you're looking at the MicroStrategy chart, if you use this superimpose on Bitcoin, MSTR over Bitcoin chart, you can see that it is very bullish. It's very much of a bull trend here for MSTR for BTC chart. Ever since May of 2022, it's been doing nothing but making higher lows and higher highs. And right now, you broke through the cloud and you're back testing these Tenkan and Kijun down here. It looks like it's holding the cloud here still. So MSTR is still outperforming Bitcoin, and I have a hard time being too bearish on Bitcoin if MSTR is outperforming Bitcoin, right? The couple other ones here too that people generally follow with coin, I really like to see coin closing above the monthly Tenkan here on 199. And again, you still have a couple of weeks left. As long as coin closes about 199, I still feel very bullish about it, and because the Tenkan is rising, is pushing up, I think we're probably going to end up holding that level pretty decent. Now on the weekly, you're having a little bit of a hard time trying to break back above, just like Bitcoin's underneath the Tenkan and Kijun. And we'll see whether or not price initially end up grabbing back up towards these levels, try to back test them. But I can totally see it kind of just hovering sideways, using the cloud as support to push price up higher. Now there is a problem with this kind of price action is on the daily chart. You are having a little bit of a ascending wedge, but you can also potentially see this median zone ascending wedge. It's still actually got a little bit more like an ascending triangle rather than like a wedging up, right? You have a little bit of a gap here. The gap got closed, but from this gap down. But when you have a gap close here, sometimes a gap close can actually serve as a little bit of resistance, and exactly what it's doing now. But on the daily, you have price reclaiming the Tenkan, which is a positive sign for price to potentially go up. You also having the wave trend oscillator also pointing up as well. So Coinbase, I do see it closing, maybe like go back around 216 or so, maybe even go back to as far as like 230. Probably gonna get it rejected around 216 or 230, come back down and maybe back test some of these levels down here. Yet you do have a Fibonacci level here around 183.58. I don't know, I'm not sure if it's going to come back and back test that, But I can see potentially hitting some of these levels up here and then kind of come back test 199 level and maybe potentially close a month at around 199, and I would still find this to be a bullish chart. Now, one thing that everybody is interested in when they're watching my videos, because CleanSpark has just made a very significant move up over time, and everybody's wondering whether or not this is the end of CleanSpark. Well, I gotta say this is a higher low, so I'm gonna lean more bullish. And because MicroStrategy is still outperforming Bitcoin, so I'm gonna still be more lean more bullish. Plus the US M2 money supply is going up, so I'm gonna lean bullish for CleanSpark. I think this old sideways over here, it could either break up or down, and end up just choosing violence down because VIX went to 60, and because Bitcoin went to 49k. You know, CleanSpark, because of this big giant parabolic bull trend up here, you really needed a little bit of a strong wave 2 to really flush down all the leverage. Really need a strong wave 2 here to really flush down a lot of the degenerates. And right now it's down. Like, I think pretty much all the momentum chasers are already out of the stock. Where would I like the candle to close on a month? I like to see it close above the 0.236 level, around 11.38, because it's just simply got rejected above at the 0.5 level. Had a hard time break above the 0.382 and the monthly Ichimoku clouds, and actually just end up gravitating down to the next support level, which is actually just a breakout of this previous resistance. You know, you basically trying to turn it into support, right? The problem is I really want to see the month to close back above the 0.236. If we can do that, then I would be a lot more, you know, bullish on CleanSpark moving forward. I don't necessarily think it's going to end up holding the weekly Ichimoku cloud. If it does, then you're talking about price really going back next week to like 13, 14 and just kind of bounce up. I see that there is a risk of it being, you know, kind of falling out of the cloud. I see that as a potential. And if it does do that, I think it's okay. It's not the end of the world, but you'd be losing a potential support level. You know, looking at the Super Ichi, Super Ichi already falling out of it. But if you look at the super trend, you are still have a positive super trend. It basically just bounced at the bottom of the super trend over here. So this is still positive momentum. There's still a lot of, you know, positive, based on like volume. You basically have a still a bullish tint here when it comes to the super trend, right? If you don't look at the weekly, because look at the weekly, you'll almost look like you're underneath resistance. But you look at the monthly, you really see that it just came back down and tried to back test the 0.236. As long as it closes above this level, I think that this might be the support level that we might need before further bullish continuation. I also just want to remind you too, on the Bollinger Band, you have the 20-month moving average, and it got really close to it. So this is still going to serve as like a pretty decent support. I don't think it has to back test all the way down to this level, but I still think that it's a pretty, you know, decent support right there. I do think that they did use the VIX at like, you know, 60, and you know, and Bitcoin flushed down all the way to 49,000 to really try and close a couple of these gaps down here that hasn't been closed. There's still a gap down below around like 7.3. I don't really necessarily think that that's going to be a gap that they have to close, but looking at the daily chart, it does look like you're starting to build up, you know, some bullish momentum here. It does look like you have some, you know, these wick candles over here. So I do think that the trend wants to turn more positive, and I'd like to see it maybe post the gap here maybe by sometime next week. If we could do that, I think it'd be, you know, some pretty decent bullish development here. But going back to the weekly here, you still have a gap above, and you're still going to have some resistance around 13.2, because that's where the gap is going to be. And next level beyond 13.2 is going to be around like, you know, $15. So right now you have more resistance above, unfortunately, and it's just the way that it goes. It might take some time, weeks to maybe a couple months, to really try and break above these levels. Now, if it takes a lot shorter than that, if it just ends up breaking above and just goes up higher, I'll be very, very pleasantly surprised. But right now, you're kind of down below, and you you're finding support here at the Fibonacci level. That is just basically a very important level from previous, and we just basically doing a back test, and it's just basically a higher low. So overall, I'm still relatively bullish on this. The lower it goes, the better it gets for me. It's also at a very important volume shelf over here, right? So it's just back testing some stuff. I think it has to kind of break back above a lot of resistance levels now, but hey, you know, it's just the way that it goes. Form a higher low, what can I say? you know, I'm still bullish on it. That's what I'm trying to say. If you look at Mara, I'm going to go to Mara here. What do I think Mara is doing? If I just look at the monthly chart here, I'm going to turn off all the other indicators. If you just look at Ichimoku clouds underneath resistance, I'm going to turn off Ichimoku cloud. If you look at the Super Ichi, I think it tells you a little bit a better story. It's just been range bound. I can totally see the month closing above the Tenkan here in blue line after it got rejected over here at the bottom of the cloud, right? And totally see the month closing above 16.06. We're not that far away from it, and we're still stuck in a range, you know, unfortunately. A couple of things too. Bull in Japan 20-month moving average has been serving us pretty decent support here, and then on top of that, if you look at the weekly chart here, if you look at the Super Ichi cloud, you can see that it has kind of gotten back inside the Super Ichi cloud right now. Price, as long as it's above 15.49, and right now we're kind of underneath a little bit of a little bit that, but as long as we're able to close perhaps the week above 15.49, I still think that this overall is just a little bit of like a back test of the bottom of the Ichimoku cloud. You know, if that holds, then you have a greater chance for it to kind of go up further, going back to like 2021 to try and see if we can break above that range. But it's just been ranging sideways here. You know, there's nothing significant one way or another. If you just look at the pitchfork here that I've drawn, it's basically been up going on the channel and is finding support where it needed to find at the bottom of the pitchfork after it bounced off from the top of the pitchfork, right? And in addition to it being the bottom pitchfork, is also confluent with the 0.136 Fibonacci level. So it's nothing really that bearish about it. If overall, if anything, it's just finding support where it needed to find. So at this point, I am still leaning bullish on Mara. I still hold Mara. You know, we'll see how it goes. But that's kind of what I'm seeing here at Mara. Now on Bitfarms, it is basically a very similar thing as Mara. It's still an upgoing channel. And there's really a very similar chart here between Bitfarms and Mara. It's just a little bit more bullish, because if you look at the channel, same thing, right? You have a pitchfork, and it also got close at 0.136, but it didn't really quite hit that, whereas Mara already like actually hit it, right? So Bitfarm actually looks a little bit more bullish. It's getting a little bit closer, 0.236, but Mara is still a little bit further away, you know, so Bitfarm actually has some relative strength here. But basically, they're very, very similar charts. At the bottom of the channel, I'm a little bit more bullish. It's trying to break back above, and right now it's getting rejected here at this part of the channel over here, which is no big deal. You know, I don't anticipate it just push up. It can just keep riding up and hopefully challenge the 0.236 level over here, and we'll see how it goes, right? Cipher, still a very bullish chart. I would like to see the week closing above the 0.236 if possible. Broke above, got rejected by 0.5, and couldn't hold the 0.382. Got rejected by that, came back down. So the next natural thing is going to be gravitate to this big giant volume shelf. So I would like to see it maybe closing the week, this week or maybe next week, above the 0.236 is what's about this volume shelf over here. And that's basically the story. I mean, overall, it's still forming nothing but higher lows and higher highs. I'm still very bullish on Cipher. Like, there's nothing really bearish about this chart that I'm worried about. 20-month moving average is still crawling up, and it still looks like it wants to potentially go higher over time. That's Cipher. IREN. IREN has basically been respecting a symmetric triangle breakout and backtest, right? 20-month moving average also crawling up, so you have a lot more support down underneath, show you need it, but I don't think it necessarily would need it. It did find support here at a very big volume shelf, and it is finding resistance here at this volume shelf over here, as well as at the Fibonacci level at 0.236, which is currently at 7.45 right now. Price is above that, and all it's doing right now is just back testing this symmetrical triangle after breaking through above, right? There's nothing really entirely too bearish about it, because this is still a higher low compared to over here, right? So overall, this is still a pretty decent chart, but I bet a lot of people are frustrated because they bought up here at resistance at 0.5 Fibonacci level. Big giant volume shelf over here, got rejected, came back down. Where is it going to find support? Well, I thought it was going to find support around like 7.5 right here with this volume shelf. No, it broke down further, but right now we're still at a pretty decent level. I still anticipate to potentially break back above and back test the 12.8 level sometime, maybe over the next couple of months or so. And the benefits of current price action is that it didn't only just back test the symmetrical triangle here, it also is back testing the 0.236. And so far today, again, this is a monthly candle, there's still 2 more weeks for it to go, but so far today it looks like we're holding the 0.236 level, right? So again, I see a lot of similarities, like CleanSpark backtested 0.236, Mara have already backtested the 0.136 and holding. Bitfarms got pretty close to 0.136, but didn't really quite get there and holding, right? Cipher trying to reclaim the 0.336. IREN has so far reclaimed the 0.336, right? So there's a lot of similarities between all these charts. Now the next one's going to be TeraWulf, and I think I'm probably going to end a note here with TeraWulf here. What is it doing? Well, I mean, if you look at what it's doing, it's really basically got way too far, way too fast, got rejected as a 0.136, and couldn't get way outside of upper Bollinger Band, just had to come back down here, back test the volume shelf over here, and it looks like it's holding. 20-month moving average is still underneath of it, and it also just back tested the 20-week and is holding. This is actually one of the more bullish stocks because it's holding the 20-week, and it's also holding the bull market support band essentially, right? So everything is kind of serving as as a support underneath. Let me see here. I'm going to pull the bull market support band here. Yeah, so it's reclaimed bull market support band, right? So this is one of the more bullish chart because IREN had lost it, Cipher has lost it, Bitfarms is trying to reclaim it, Mara has lost it, and CleanSpark has lost it, right? But so far, TeraWulf came back down, back tested volume shelf, bounced, and so far you're above the bull market support band, right? So this is one of the more bullish charts that there are. If I was going to add to something, maybe I would add to TeraWulf, I don't know. But so far they're all at some pretty important levels after it's broken down recently, after VIX went to like 60 and after Bitcoin broke down to like 49k. So we'll see how it goes. Right now Bitcoin is still struggling to break back above its bull market support band, and right now Bitcoin is still at a lower time frame. At the 15-minute chart, it is still trying to hold support here, right? And the oscillator is still pointing a little bit more positive, and you can start to get a little bit more wicks down below here on the 15-minute chart. So we'll see what on this level hold. This level here obviously didn't hold, it just made another low over here. But we'll see whether or not this level holds. If it doesn't, the next level is going to be on the 30-minute chart. It's going to be down here around anywhere around like around 56,000 essentially. Is forming a little bit of a bear flag. These things are always a little bit scary, but you might have a little bit of a trend change here of the trend with oscillator. This whole thing is a little bit oversold, so we'll see if it holds here, if it starts to kind of go up and break away from this bear flag, or it goes down further to 56,000. That's always a possibility. Anyway, thanks so much for listening. Have a good one. Bye.